everyone tells you inflation is the enemy. It steals your savings, makes groceries expensive, and turns a normal shopping trip into a mini panic attack at the checkout. And they are right if you are a saver. But if you have fixed-rate debt, like a fixed-rate car loan, inflation can be your silent partner because while you are sleeping, inflation is quietly shrinking the real burden of that loan by making each future dollar you use to pay it back worth less. So yes, inflation is painful. But it has a weird loophole if you borrowed money at a fixed rate, and inflation is running hotter than that rate. The bank is not winning the way people assume. In real purchasing power terms, the debt is melting. Picture this. I am holding a block of ice labeled car loan. Above it is the sun labeled inflation. I do not have to do anything dramatic. I just sit there and the ice melts. Now let's make this real. Rick is at the grocery store. Milk is $8. Eggs feel like a luxury item. Rick is panicking because everything is more expensive and he feels squeezed. Rick says, I need to cut expenses. I'm going to pay off my car loan today to lower my monthly burn. And that is when Rick does what the debt-free cult trained him to do. Treat all debt like sin. Treat paying it off like moral superiority. Freeze the frame right there. Because Rick is about to make a move that feels responsible, but can be mathematically backwards. Rick is about to take his most valuable asset, cash, flexibility, options, and use it to pay off a debt that, in real terms, is already destroying itself. Rick thinks he is being responsible, but Rick is about to bail out the bank. Now, quick disclaimer. This is education, not personal financial advice. Your rate, your budget, your job stability, your risk tolerance, all of that matters. I'm not telling you to stay in debt no matter what. I am telling you to understand the math, so you stop making emotional decisions that cost you money. So let's talk about the core concept banks hope you never learn. Nominal versus real interest rates. Most people stop at the nominal rate, the number printed on the loan. My car loan is 4%. End of conversation. Pay it off. Celebrate. But real life has inflation, and inflation changes the whole calculation. Nominal interest rate is the stated rate. Real interest rate is what that rate costs you after inflation eats purchasing power. And the formula is simple. Real cost of debt equals interest rate minus inflation rate. Let's do a clean example. Just an example. Car loan rate, 4%. Inflation rate, 5%. Real cost of debt, 4 minus 5, equals negative 1%. Negative 1%, that means in purchasing power terms. The burden of the debt is shrinking faster than the interest is growing. In plain English, if inflation is higher than your fixed rate, you are not paying normal interest. The bank is getting paid back with weaker dollars, year after year. And this is why the debt-free advice can be so expensive, because it ignores the real cost. Now, important reality check. Inflation moves, it can drop, it can spike, and your personal inflation rate might be different than the headline number, but the concept is still the concept. Inflation changes the real cost of fixed-rate debt, so before you panic pay off a low-rate loan, you should at least know what game you are playing. Now let's get into the 3 ways inflation pays off your car loan, and why paying it off early can be a mistake, especially when your rate is low. First, the future dollar discount. When you borrow today's dollars, and today's dollars are the most valuable dollars you will ever have, because they buy the most stuff. But when you repay a fixed-rate loan over time, you repay with future dollars. And future dollars are usually weaker. That is debasement. The dollar loses purchasing power over time. So your payment stays the same number, but the pain changes. Imagine your car payment is $500 10 years ago. Maybe $500 represented 50 hours of work at your pay rate. Today, maybe it represents 30 hours, same 500, different weight. Even if wages lag inflation in the short term, over long stretches incomes often rise. And that is the point. Fixed payments can become easier to carry over time. That is why people who lock in low fixed rates during high inflation periods quietly benefit. Common mistake. People use today's valuable cash to eliminate a fixed payment that is likely to feel lighter later. They pay it off right when the dollars are strongest, and when cash is most useful. So ask yourself this: if your payment is manageable and your rate is fixed and relatively low, why rush to kill it with your most flexible money? Now, second, opportunity cost and liquidity. The part nobody talks about at the debt-free celebration. Paying off a car loan early feels productive because you can point to something and say, "It's gone." But wealth building is not about deleting bills. It is about maximizing options and net worth over time without taking reckless risk. So let's do a simple scenario, just an example with round numbers. You have $30,000 in cash. You also have a $30,000 car loan at 4%. Choice A, you pay off the car. Now you have a paid-off car and basically zero cash. You saved about $1,200 per year in interest. Because 4% of 30,000 is 1,200. Choice B, you keep the loan, and you keep your cash liquid. Let's say you park that 30,000 in a high-yield savings account paying 5%. Rates change, but this is realistic in some periods. Now you earn about $1,500 per year, because 5% of 30,000 is 1,500. So by not paying off the car, you can be about $300 ahead, and you still have the 30,000 available if life happens, and even if that difference is smaller in your real situation. The bigger point remains. Liquidity has value because in an emergency, you cannot pay rent with a paid-off car. You cannot buy groceries with no car payment. You need cash. So let's do a quick gut check question. If you used your cash to pay off the car today, and then you lost your job next month, would you feel safer or more trapped? This is the part that flips people's thinking. Being debt-free is not automatically being safe. Sometimes being debt-free just means you concentrated your resources into an asset you cannot easily convert back into cash without selling it. Now, yes, you could sell the car, but you are not going to like that option when you need it. You might sell at a bad time. You might take a loss, and you still need transportation, so the practical way to think is this. Cash is a shock absorber. Paying off a low-rate loan early can remove your shock absorber. Now the third point, the asset reality, depreciation protection. A car is not an investment. It is transportation. Most cars lose value. Some lose value aggressively. Even the good ones depreciate. Metal and rubber sitting in the sun do not compound. So when you dump a big pile of your own cash into a car, you are concentrating your wealth into something that usually goes down. Here is the blunt version. If you pay cash for a car, you own 100% of a depreciating asset. If you finance at a reasonable fixed rate, you keep your cash available for assets that can grow, or at minimum for stability and optionality. That could mean a diversified investment portfolio over the long term, like low-cost index funds as one broad example, depending on your risk tolerance and time horizon. Or it could mean building skills, starting a business, building a cash buffer. Whatever actually increases your future financial strength. And I want to be clear, this is not me saying finance everything. If your loan is 12%, that is different. If your payment is crushing you, that is different. If you are using financing as an excuse to buy too much car, that is different. But if you have a low fixed rate and your budget is stable, the strategy is simple. Keep your money working for you and let inflation do some of the work on the fixed debt. Do not sink your liquidity into something that is guaranteed to age. Now let's tie it all together with a story you will remember. Two people, same car, same year, different mindset. It's 2021. Two people buy the same $40,000 Toyota and both get a 3% fixed-rate loan. Then inflation spikes to 8% in 2022. Person 1, panic Pete. Pete hates debt. He scrapes together every penny and pays off the full $40,000 in year 1. He is proud. He feels morally clean. Result: Pete is debt-free, but he is cash poor. So when inflation keeps squeezing prices, when groceries get expensive, when something breaks, Pete has no buffer. He has no flexibility. He is one surprise expense away from stress. Person 2. Inflation Ian. Ian keeps the loan. He keeps his $40,000 liquid and working. Maybe he puts it in an inflation-protected savings vehicle available at the time. Maybe he invests it for long-term growth in a diversified portfolio. Maybe he keeps some in a high-yield savings account because he values stability. The exact choice depends on the person, but the principle is the same. Ian does not panic pay off low-rate fixed debt during high inflation. Fast forward to 2026. Just an example of what can happen. Ian's income has risen over time, So that fixed $600 payment feels lighter than it did in 2021. It is still $600 on paper, but it hits his budget differently, and Ian's $40,000 has grown. Maybe it becomes $55,000 over those years, depending on what he did with it and what markets did. Now Ian can pay off the remaining balance and still keep the difference. Punchline: Ian got a free upgrade in financial position, not by being a genius, but by understanding the math, and by not bailing out the bank early. Meanwhile, Pete has a paid-off car and stress. Now, does this mean Ian wins in every possible world? No. If inflation drops fast and savings rates drop, the spread changes. If markets are down and Pete values certainty, that is a personal preference. If someone is not disciplined and keeping the cash means spending it, the strategy collapses. But this video is about understanding what is actually happening. So you stop treating debt-free like a religion, because the debt-free cult teaches one sentence: debt is bad. Math teaches a better sentence: the rate and the terms matter. So let's recap the real lesson. Inflation lowers the real cost of fixed-rate debt, especially when inflation is higher than your interest rate. Cash in the bank is a survival tool. Equity in a car is not. And if your car loan rate is below inflation, or even below what you can safely earn on cash in a high-yield savings account, paying it off early can be a mathematical error. Now the caveats, because these are real life, not textbooks. If your rate is high, pay attention. You may want to eliminate that guaranteed drag. If your payment is stressing your budget, lowering monthly obligations might be worth it. If paying off the car is the only way you will stop overspending, then the behavior fix might matter more than the math. But if your loan is fixed and manageable, and you have the discipline to keep your cash liquid and not blow it, do not let guilt push you into helping the bank. The system is designed to strip you of cash by selling you the moral superiority of being debt-free. Do not buy the morality, buy the math. Now do something practical with this. Open your Notes app and write 3 lines. Right now, your car loan APR, your monthly payment, your cash cushion. How many months of essentials you can cover if income stops. Then ask yourself one question: if I wrote a check today to pay off the car, would my life become safer, or would it become tighter? And I want you to comment one thing below. Is your car loan rate above or below inflation right now? And what are you doing next? Paying extra or keeping your cash liquid?